Well, this could change the district attorney's mind about prosecuting Karen Reed again. The judge in the Young Thug case reversed himself. The Dylan Rounds murderer was sentenced yesterday. Rudy Giuliani got disbarred. And what not to do in a carjacking. Let me give you an example. The transcript from the state grand jury regarding that guy named Jeff has been released. Tell me there isn't two forms of justice out there. Susan Smith is thinking she is getting released from prison. I sure hope not. Maybe this guy is not a suspect for murder. Maybe he just is a really tidy person. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is CrimeTalk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and remember you can listen to us anytime on any of your favorite podcasting apps. And hey, if you're there, you could leave a review that maybe you enjoy the program. Or I got a review today that said, Scott is just too insensitive. He doesn't understand these types of things, and gave me a 1-star rating. Ouch. Well, I guess that's their opinion. We are free speech believers, so good to go. And what were they commenting about? Yeah, I don't even remember. It was something I was just not sensitive enough. Therefore, I got a 1-star. Ouch. Geez, that just hurts me. As a practicing criminal defense attorney, I've never been accused of being callous and insensitive. I'm telling you, I've got a heart. I keep it right next to my bed in a jar of formaldehyde, ladies and gentlemen. No, actually, I have the biggest heart. I am a harmless little fuzzball. We just bring you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, and we believe that, we should be entitled to see everything. That's what it is all about. Because so many people, not only in the court system, but in government, think that we are all just a bunch of idiots and that we can't handle the truth and that we can't handle seeing the bad things that take place in life. And I'm telling you, if we got to see a lot of the bad things in life, ladies and gentlemen, we'd probably be a little more realistic and we wouldn't go out there with this little bubble thinking that we are all just going to get along if everybody gave everybody a big old hug. It doesn't work that way, ladies and gentlemen. I've seen evil. You need to protect yourself from evil. And to act like or think that evil does not exist, or it doesn't exist if we don't get to see the bad pictures of it. Give me the 1-star review because you don't think that the world should see bad pictures. It's your opinion. I appreciate your opinion. Reasonable minds will have to disagree. Anyway, it's July 2nd. We are almost to July 4th, the favorite holiday of the CrimeTalk studio. We love the 4th of July. Bunch of rebels going against the government, the king at the time, for what? That's right, a 2% increase on the tax for tea. And these people risked their life, their liberty, and their wealth, their treasure for that crazy thing called freedom. So when somebody says, I'm going to give you a 1-star review because you're insensitive, I appreciate that. Thank God you live in a country where you can have that. A lot of places you can't. Even if it's just a private review, the government can say, you can't say mean things about people. You could hurt Scott's feelings, right? Anyway, let's move on. All right, it's July 2nd, 2024. First, this could possibly change the way things come about in the Karen Reed trial. As you know, the judge in the Karen Reed trial declared a mistrial after the jury said they were at irreconcilable differences. They were never going to agree and people were not going to change their mind. And so the judge ultimately declared a mistrial, even though the jurors had told the judge that they had the same opinion last Friday as well as Monday morning. But finally Monday afternoon rolled around and the judge said enough. Anyway, the defense attorneys for Karen Reed have vowed to fight on for their client after the judge declared that mistrial. And they vow that they will never quit for fighting for Miss Reed. I guarantee you that they will continue to fight for Miss Reed as long as their retainer is being paid. If for some reason the retainer stopped being paid or the bills were not covered by the retainer, then they would stop fighting for Miss Reed. It's nothing personal. They just want to get paid. Anyway, like I said, the trial ended on July 1st when the judge declared that mistrial because they could not reach a unanimous verdict. The jury deliberations went for about 26 hours, and they had apparently been deadlocked for several days. Some of the notes that they sent to the judge were that they were deeply divided because of deeply held convictions, and consensus was completely unattainable, according to those notes sent to the judge. Another note said, despite our commitment to the duty entrusted in us, we find ourselves deeply divided by fundamental differences in our options and state of mind. Anyway, the prosecutors said that they wanted the jury to continue to deliberate after they told the judge the second time that they were deadlocked. In the end, the judge decided that the jurors, and based on what was in their notes, they were unable to reach any kind of a unanimous decision. Anyway, the district attorney's office then immediately put out a press release saying they intend to retry Miss Karen Reed. But the one thing that may change all this is, well, the Massachusetts State Police have taken action against Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, because after the mistrial was declared in the case against Karen Reed, the prosecutors drew some heavy criticism after testifying in that particular case, after Mr. Proctor's testimony in the case, for which he served as a lead investigator, revealing a series of inappropriate texts that he had sent to others about Miss Reed. Upon learning of the result in court, the department took immediate action to relieve Trooper Michael Proctor of duty and formally transfer him out of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office from their detectives unit, said the Colonel John Mon, who's the interim superintendent of the Massachusetts State Police, who also put in the statement, this follows our previous decision to open an internal affairs investigation after information about serious misconduct emerged in the testimony at the trial. That investigation is ongoing. Now, as you may recall, Mr. Proctor became the lead investigator after the state police were called in because one of the witnesses in the case, Mr. Albert, had a brother with the Canton Police Department. But Investigator Proctor's own connection with other witnesses in the case were called into question at the time of the trial. And Investigator Proctor acknowledged that he is close with his sister, Courtney, who is friends with Julie Albert, the homeowner's sister-in-law. So the trooper, like I said, came under fire after testifying about texts he sent during the investigation to friends, family members, and colleagues, including superiors with the state police. In those texts, he called Miss Reed a whack job and used the word that rhymes with punt. Yes, inappropriate. Those and some other disparaging remarks regarding medical conditions. And he said that he found no nudes so far when going through her phone. Guess what he was looking for? Things of evidentiary value. Well, that doesn't sound so much like evidentiary value. That would seem like an illegal search. My gosh, Investigator Proctor could be sued under Section 1983 of the Federal Code for violation of one's constitutional rights. Now, couldn't he? Possibly. Anyway, when a friend said they were sure the owner of the house will receive some blank, Proctor replied, nope, homeowner is a Boston cop too. Now, some of the trooper's texts about Miss Reed were sent to his wife, Elizabeth Proctor. Regarding State Trooper Michael Proctor being relieved of duty, the conduct has consequences, Miss Reed's attorneys noted. Miss Reed's defense attorneys noted that the district attorney backed this misogynistic, corrupt cop, and 2 hours after he announced he will pursue a second trial against an innocent woman, referring to Miss Karen Reed, the Massachusetts State Police announced that Michael Proctor, the lead investigator for the Commonwealth, has been relieved of duty because of serious misconduct that emerged in the testimony at trial. Needless to say, the defense attorneys say, we look forward to another opportunity to reveal the truth about the unjust prosecution and wish the prosecutors good luck. Now, Investigator Proctor did say that his words were unprofessional, even regrettable, but claimed that they had no bearing on the integrity of the investigation. Well, yeah, his testimony was likely fatal to the government's case, especially, as you point out, his supervisors were involved in some of these exchanges and didn't reprimand him in any way possible. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, big problems for the state. Prosecution, obviously they got a little time to rethink it, but they may want to rethink this one indeed. Next, the judge in the Young Thug case changes his mind. That's right, the judge overseeing the racketeering and gang prosecution against Young Thug and a bunch of other co-defendants pulled the plug on the long-running trial until another judge will rule on the request by several defendants that the judge step aside from the case. Attorneys for Young Thug and some of the other co-defendants have filed motions seeking the recusal of the Fulton County Superior Court Chief Judge Earl Granville after he held a meeting with prosecutors and a prosecution witness at which the defendants and the defense attorneys were not present. Just makes my skin crawl that even a judge would think that would be the slightest appropriate in any way possible. Anyway, the attorneys alleged that the meeting was improper, I agree, and said the judge and the prosecutors tried to pressure the witness who had been granted immunity into providing his testimony. Now, the jurors who are already on a break until July 8th would be notified that they will not be needed until the matter is resolved. The judge let everybody know. Now, this is the latest delay in the trial that has dragged on for a year, in part because of numerous problems. Jury selection in this case began in January of 2023, and that took nearly 10 months. Opening statements were in November, and the prosecution has been presenting its case, calling dozens of witnesses. Now, the judge last month held Young Thug's attorney, Brian Steele, in contempt for refusing to tell the judge how he found out about the secretive meeting. The attorney was ordered to serve 10 consecutive weekends in jail, but the Georgia Supreme Court put the penalty on that contempt charge on hold until the appeal is resolved. Now, during the hearing on Monday, where no jurors were present, the judge said he would release the transcript of the meeting with the prosecutors and the state witnesses, a guy by the name of Kenneth Copeland, and Copeland's lawyer. He said he would also allow another judge to decide whether he should be removed from the case in its entirety. Now, Glanville did tell the lawyers that he would enter an order sending the recusal matter to another judge, adding that we will, quote, see you in a little bit, depending on how it's ruled upon. All right? Your Honor, do we have a timeline of when the motion to recuse may be heard? The prosecutor inquired, and the judge said, I don't know. He doesn't have anything to do with that because it's a recusal motion now, doesn't he? Anyway, the prosecutors asked that the matter be expedited, citing concerns about holding these jurors indefinitely. The judge noted that he understood the concern and hoped that it would be acted upon quickly. Now, the judge has maintained there was nothing improper about the meeting. He said that the prosecutors requested it to talk about Copeland's immunity agreement. Nothing should have been done outside the presence of the defense attorneys. You just don't do that. The judge isn't giving some advisory opinion on the scope of one's immunity agreement. That needs to be done in open court with those particular attorneys involved. Anyway, this judge, 10 months to seat a jury, another 7 months to put on 12 witnesses. This thing is a complete joke. We tried to bring you coverage of this, but you never know when it's actually going to be going on because it's so intermittent. I've never seen anything like it whatsoever. But that's what happens when you get weak judges trying to, act like they're important by dragging the case out. I don't get it whatsoever. Next in the docket, the murderer of Dylan Rounds is sentenced. James Brenner was sentenced in Box Elder County after he pled guilty to the murder of Dylan Rounds. Now, Brenner entered a plea agreement and received a reduction from the first-degree felony aggravated murder to second-degree felony murder in the death of Mr. Rounds. Now, Brenner was also convicted of 2 weapons-related charges, including the second-degree felony. All right. Now, Brenner was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison for each of the 3 counts he pled guilty. He was also given credit for the jail time that he's already served. That's quite normal. And as part of the agreement, prison time is mandatory for Brenner, but sentence for each charge will run consecutively to him. Now, Brenner declined to speak during the sentencing hearing, relying solely on the words of his attorneys. Now, a representative for the Rounds family spoke during the hearing, calling Dillon a dreamer, a builder, a visionary. The representatives also called Brenner's actions calculated and said that Dillon's tragic loss has been deeply felt by the family. Now, the prosecution said that Mr. Brenner's remorse has been totally absent in court proceedings, saying that even though it's a relief to finally have received or gotten to this particular point, it doesn't change that a life was tragically lost. The judge requested that Brenner stand and face the gallery, which was filled with family and friends of Mr. Rounds, and through his lawyer, Mr. Brenner declined to fulfill that request. Now, I think that's a little inappropriate for a judge to do, but I get it. The judge was trying to make a point. Anyway, the judge did note, I'm going to recommend to the parole board that they keep you as long as they legally can. The judge noted at his closing remarks. Restitution costs are to be determined. Not that anyone will ever get paid restitution because the man's in prison for the rest of his life and he's completely indigent. Anyway, Rounds was last seen last Memorial Day in 2022 in Nevada, where he recently moved to start his own farm. Nearly a year after his disappearance, Brenner, who had reportedly been squatting on property near Rounds' farm, was arrested and charged. Now, the pair of boots with Rounds' blood at the time a time-lapse video was discovered showing Brenner clearing a gun with blood stains on his arms and shirt. Then in April of 2024, the family reported that Brenner led authorities to where Rounds was buried as part of a plea agreement. Skeletal remains were located in a remote area in Box Elder County and later confirmed to belong to Mr. Rounds. So, tragic story. Remember when that came out? Didn't think it was going to end well for anyone involved. Heart goes out to the Rounds family. Obviously, the kid was hard worker, motivated, and was, out to go on a path of good things in the future. And then that guy took his life. Bad news. He should spend the rest of his life in prison. Next, Rudy Giuliani loses his law license in New York. And what can I tell you about this? I tell every attorney that's come to work for me over the last 30 years that I have never met a client worth going to jail for, and that you will never be paid enough money to jeopardize your law license, okay? And attorneys, you can say lots of things, all right? But you do have a duty to investigate. And that's where the former New York City mayor has been disbarred by the appellate courts there after his law license was suspended for making demonstrably false and misleading statements about the 2020 presidential election. Now, Mr. Giuliani was one of Donald Trump's fiercest and unwavering supporters as the president made statements and claims about certain types of election fraud. Anyway, the court laid out a laundry list of some of the alleged 20 false statements that Giuliani made publicly since the 2020 election. In all, there were 20 disciplinary charges based upon those statements. One of those more colorful comments was the grievance committee found Giuliani had falsely stated a vote was cast in Philadelphia in the name of a deceased boxing champ by the name of Joe Frazier. Heard of him. Anyway, Giuliani eventually had to admit no such vote had been cast and claimed that he relied on a blogger's comment when he spewed the lie. He further admits in more than a dozen other instances he regurgitated false information from various sources, but insists he thought that they were true when they were said. Anyway, the court didn't buy that excuse, and when the bar suspended Giuliani's license, it determined his actions represented an immediate threat to the public and also had a direct inflamed tensions that led to the January 6th insurrection. I would call it more of a storming of the Capitol because there's actually a charge for insurrection and that wasn't it. But we digress. those technicalities when it comes to the legal words. They have meanings. Anyway, like I said, at the beginning of the show, we believe in free speech. There's lots of countries that don't have free speech. This is the government taking away his law license for speech. And to claim that it was some sort of immediate threat, I don't know. If he gets convicted in Georgia, take away his law license. If he gets convicted in Arizona, where he's criminally charged, take away his law license. Saying ridiculous things. What if an attorney is representing a client and gets up there and says, in front of a crowd of people, that his client is innocent, knowing that the client maybe not be? Is that inciting immediate danger to the community? False lies, statements. Oh my gosh. Telling you, ladies and gentlemen, don't get me wrong. I'm no big fan of Rudy Giuliani. He was, obviously beloved after 9/11, and then his career just started to crash and burn. It's kind of sad when you think about it. He's going to die possibly in prison, definitely broke. But in America, you can say ridiculous stuff. You can. People say ridiculous stuff all the time. Like, there's people out there that think the world is flat. If you think that, I would think that maybe you are in immediate danger, possibly to yourself and to others. But we allow people to say that. We don't take away their law licenses for it. We don't throw them in jail. Maybe we want to inquire if they need a little mental health treatment, but you get the point. You can't go away around destroying people because you don't like what they say. And if people don't like that, I get it. Tell me. I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments, you're leaving because this guy wants people to know the truth so that they can actually figure out the truth themselves. If you hear competing ideas, ladies and gentlemen, that's how the truth comes out, not by regurgitating what everybody tells you and then threatens you if you believe something different. You can't do that, ladies and gentlemen. That's not how a free society works. All right, let me explain to you what not to do in a carjacking. First, don't take other people's things. Don't take people's cars. Don't take people's cars at gunpoint, particularly at an intersection. All good words of advice here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is an example of what not to do. So a Florida carjacker abducted a woman's baby and a cat while stealing her vehicle, then abandoned the child on the side of the road. Thank goodness he got arrested. Willio Pentema was arrested Monday after police at the Broward County Sheriff's Office received an anonymous tip that led to his capture. Now, Mr. Pentema was charged with kidnapping, carjacking, interfering with custody of a minor, and illegal use of a credit card. The charges stem from an incident last Wednesday after the woman got into an accident with another car in the city of Oakland Park. As Mr. Pentema sped off, the woman latched onto the car door and was dragged down the road until she dropped to the ground. At some point during the getaway, Mr. Pentema realized the woman's 3-year-old daughter was in the car seat in the back, and then Mr. Pentema pulled over on the side of the road. Dashcam video obtained by the police showed the defendant hopping out of the vehicle, opening the back door, removing the baby in the car seat, and placing her on the side of the street. The defendant then got back into the car and drove off as Good Samaritans ran up to help the child. Thank goodness. The suspect eventually abandoned the car with the woman's cat inside, and then he went on to use the woman's credit card to make a purchase at a local store. Of course, those incidents were also captured on video. Now, thank goodness the baby and the cat were safe and reunited with their mother. If that wasn't so serious, that would have been dumb criminal of the day kind of stuff. But don't worry, we have another dumb criminal of the day for you. Anyway, next, that guy named Jeff, their two-tier justice system. That's right. Because of a bill signed by Governor Ron DeSantis that he signed back in February, allowed the release on Monday or any time thereafter that the judge ordered appropriate, the transcripts, the grand jury transcripts of the case against that guy named Jeffrey Epstein. And normally in Florida, the transcripts are forever sealed and nobody can ever get those transcripts. But the legislature and the governor put the bill forward, and Governor DeSantis signed it. Anyway, there was testimony in the transcript, because the grand jurors heard testimony, that Epstein, who was then in his 40s, had sexually assaulted teenage girls as young as 14 at his Palm Beach mansion, often paying them so he could commit statutory rape and other assaults. The teenagers testified and told detectives they were also paid cash or rented cars if they found him more girls. Now, the details in the records will be outrageous to decent people, the judge wrote in the order releasing the transcripts. The testimony was taken by the grand jury concerning activity ranging from grossly unacceptable to rape. All of the conduct at issue is sexually deviant, disgusting, and criminal. Now, as you may recall, back in 2008, Jeffrey Epstein cut a deal with the South Florida federal prosecutors that allowed him to escape more severe federal charges and instead pled guilty to state charges of procuring a person under the age of 18 for prostitution and solicitation of prostitution. He was sentenced to a year and a half in the Palm Beach County Jail, during which he was allowed to go to his office almost daily as part of the work release program, followed by a year of house arrest, and he was required to register as a sex offender. Well, there was a lot of criticism of the deal and ultimately resulted in the 2019 resignation of Alex Acosta, who was the labor secretary at the time, but he was the U.S. attorney of the Southern Florida office in 2008 and signed off on the deal. Now, in 2020, the Justice Department investigation concluded that the Acosta used some poor judgment in the handling of the Epstein prosecution, but it didn't rise to the level of professional misconduct. Of course it wasn't professional misconduct. No. I mean, you had witnesses that were willing to say that this man was engaging in human trafficking of underage girls, sexually assaulting them, and the prosecutors didn't go forward with it except to give a prostitution of a minor charge. As a member of the community, I would have been outraged. I'm curious if any of those prosecutors are still around. Why didn't they resign in complete and utter outrage? Because we know, obviously, that guy named Jeffrey Epstein, was never prosecuted. Ghislaine Maxwell, she got her time in prison. None of the people who were allegedly engaging in this conduct that Mr. Epstein was providing for these individuals, not a single one has been prosecuted. Tell me there's not a two-tier legal system in this country, ladies and gentlemen. There is. When you're rich and famous, you get lots of passes in the legal system that the rest of us just don't get. Next on the docket, Susan Smith thinks she needs to get out of prison. Now, do you remember Susan Smith? She's aged a little bit. She's 52 now. But she was convicted of drowning her sons, Michael, 3, and Alex, who was 14 months, in a South Carolina lake back in 1994. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years, and she has a hearing scheduled for parole on November 4th. Now, Miss Smith was just a mere 22-year-old mom when she let her car roll into the John D. Long Lake back in Union, South Carolina, with her sons, like I said, Michael, 3, and Alexander, who was 14 months old. Of course, they were still strapped into their car seats. She then apparently stood on the side of the lake as the vehicle sank to the bottom, drowning both boys. And Susan Smith then falsely told police that a black man had carjacked her and kidnapped the boys, leading to, you can imagine, a huge manhunt where authorities literally went door to door among local neighborhoods that were predominantly African American. Miss Smith and her then husband David appeared on national news pleading for the boys' safe return. 9 days later, Miss Smith finally confessed that there was no carjacker, there was no black man, and that she had in fact lied and that she had driven the boys into the lake. Now, why would she have done such a thing? Well, apparently she was having an affair with a wealthy man who didn't want to have children, so therefore you have to get rid of the children, not your husband. No, can't do that. Anyway, she has now She was convicted of murder, but spared the death penalty, and instead given, like I said, life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. And Susan Smith thinks that she has served enough time in prison, and she wants to go home. And apparently, at her first parole hearing, which is set for November 4th, she has spent the last few months convincing others that she needs to get out, according to family members. She's hard at work trying to find some sugar daddies as well to bankroll her lifestyle on the outside. Now, like I said, she's 52 years old now, and she's apparently engaging in a little phone sex to lure in the sugar daddies. Now you say, well, how do we know that? That would be an invasion of privacy to hear an inmate's conversations. Well, all inmates' conversations are recorded. And in the great state of South Carolina, like we found out in the Alec Murdaugh case, all those recordings are available to the public. And so we've been able to listen to Miss Smith say that it's time for her to get out. And she's done her time and she's ready to go. And she's got a couple of suitors. You know, apparently she's got some money from a house and some money she saved and what have you. And, trying to have these sugar daddies, so to speak, try to figure out how the some $213,000 that she has saved will go as she lives out her life, assuming she gets out. One of the men said that she could spend about $40,000 a year while she's withdrawing that from the balance and earning interest and what have you. And needless to say, Miss Smith says that she just loves this person so much. And then they went into some kissing and stuff that makes you think, yeah, I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, right? That kind of gross kind of stuff. Anyway, there's other people that have gone to prison. We don't need to name names. They'd find a sugar daddy in custody. Then it doesn't last, and then they go back to another boyfriend. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I get it when you do your time. I get you want family, friends. But is this really the way people need to make a living when they get out of prison? I don't think so. Next on the docket, maybe this guy is just a clean freak. What do you think? So police in Wisconsin say that they've arrested a 42-year-old estranged husband of a woman reportedly missing last month and was illegally using her credit cards to buy $6,000 worth of cleaning supplies. Maybe he just needed to clean up a couple of things. Anyway, the Dodge County Sheriff's Office says that they remain committed to solve the disappearance of Crystal Rash. The Dodge County Sheriff's Office said that they remain committed to the investigation of the disappearance of Crystal Rash and has dedicated every available resource to locating her. As part of the investigation earlier this week, investigators were able to look into Crystal's financial situation, where they found that numerous transactions had taken place using her financial accounts. And in a criminal complaint filed just yesterday, it explained that Crystal's estranged husband, Zachariah Rash, also 42, was responsible for those transactions, and they were processed without her consent. As a result, he has been arrested on numerous counts of the alleged unauthorized use of an individual's personal identifying information. Yeah. Anyway, the court found probable cause for those charges, and a $250,000 cash bond only was issued. It's almost like they don't want him to go anywhere while they conduct a little further investigation. Now, obviously, everyone is presumed innocent, but the man did confess to using the financial transaction devices, and they believe that all those cleaning supplies, they may have been used for cleaning up a body scene. Police believe that some of those funds could have been used not only for the cleaning supplies because he's a tidy individual, but to clean up a crime scene. Apparently some of the supplies included gloves, a lot of drain and carpet cleaner. He also reportedly bought car and floor cleaners, air fresheners, and a drain opener. Now, first he apparently denied making the purchase, but eventually confessed to the detectives once they showed him surveillance images of him buying items at the store. And guess what? The police also reportedly found over $3,000 in cash from a dresser and a wallet during the search of his home. And they also pinged Crystal Rash's 2 cell phones that she had, as reported, led to the discovery of a car register to her at the home of one of her husband's relatives. Officers took the car in for processing, and the other phone, the last known locations was near Juneau, Wisconsin on June 8th, coincidentally about the time that she had disappeared. Juneau, Wisconsin, get ready. They're coming to dig things up. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. A police officer who works for the Florida Correctional Institution down there, I guess their Department of Corrections, has been arrested after deputies say he called 911 because he was upset that he got a ticket for repeatedly honking his horn while driving. So a deputy who was on parole saw Douglas Morris driving a red Jeep in the area of the highway where the cop was on patrol on Sunday. The deputy pulled Mr. Morris over and said Morris claimed to be honking his horn because it makes him drive faster. The deputy added that after writing Morris a citation for the violation, he became upset and verbally abusive and then decided to call 911. The sheriff's office said that's when the deputies took control of Morris's arm to escort him out of the Jeep, whereupon, of course, he resisted. Therefore, now he's arrested for misuse of 911 and resisting arrest. Well, the staff at the Florida Department of Corrections were notified of the arrest, and they put out a statement that said, "We expect more professional behavior from those who work in the public safety industry." Do you notice they call it an industry? The statement continues saying, "Dialing 911 because you are upset that you receive a traffic citation is not only ridiculous, it ties up an emergency line and resources designated for those with true emergencies." When the deputies asked him to hang up, Morris refused, saying he did not agree with the citation. Unbelievable. Mr. Morris, you are a dumb criminal of the day. First of all, honking your horn makes you drive faster. Second, you get pulled over, you call 911, complain about it. Are you kidding me? Yes, you are a dumb criminal of the day. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And remember, the Constitution matters.